How do you handle sales objections without feeling like you're dying a little bit inside? As a business owner, you have to have sales conversations. But the problem comes in is sometimes objections are coming and you freeze. So then you think, well, hey, maybe I'll go to a sales training and I'll learn about how to handle objections. But when they start coaching you, you die a little bit inside. And in fact, I bet right now, as you're listening to this, you probably have a pit in the bottom of your stomach. And that is a good thing because decent human beings do not want to be manipulative. And that's how we think we're supposed to handle sales objections. We think we're supposed to change people's minds and then somehow sucker them into buying something that maybe they don't want or don't need. And that's not you. And as a business owner, you don't want to have anything to do with that because it's your company and it's your reputation on the line. Yet, you still have to make sales and objections come. So how do you handle that? I would argue that objections are actually a very, very good thing in sales conversations, and you want them in every single sales conversation. I would also argue that there is a way that you can honor your customers and make more sales by handling the objections correctly. And I'm going to teach you a method that we've created called the VCA method, which is validate, clarify, and advance. This is a 3-step process that helps you to be able to handle objections in a way that's going to value your customer, but also help you make more sales. So let's go. Number 1, validate. Validate your customer's objections. Nobody does this. When you hear about objections, you usually either have to say, okay, I'm going to skirt around them, I'm going to downplay them and say, hey, really, it's not that bad. Or I'm supposed to paint like this crazy picture of what life would be like when your problems are solved, so that maybe you forget about the objections. But I want to argue, is that actually going to work? Has that ever worked in any regular human conversation? I'm going to give you an example of me trying to do that. So my husband and I have been married for 17 years, love him to death, but it's not a shocker that we are not always on the same page. And one of those big times was when I wanted child number 3. He was perfectly happy with our son and daughter, but I wasn't done. I wanted to have a 3rd child. Now, I didn't take my own advice of validate, clarify, and advance. Instead, I did all of the other things. I would try to maybe skirt around the objection. I would also try to downplay it. You know what? It's really not going to be that big of a deal to have a 3rd child. Everyone says you have 2, just add 1 more. Nobody knows. Or I would actually make him feel bad about his decisions. I would make him feel guilty for not wanting to have another child. Not my greatest moments. Or other times I would say, hey, but wouldn't it be great to hear those little pitter patters of the feet in the kitchen, having 1 more to our beautiful family? And I try to paint this picture of a beautiful family of 3 children. It didn't work. It made him frustrated, it aggravated him, and he would disengage. And that's exactly what your clients do as well. So then one day, after 7 years of going around and around and around, I just decided, you know what? This isn't worth it. I love our family. I love our children that we have. We are blessed to have them. I'm going to be okay if we don't have child number 3. This is not worth it. I don't want to get into these fights anymore. And I started validating. I'm like, you know what? It is. It's going to change a lot if we had a 3rd child. And it would change for you in your responsibilities and your schedule and you going back and forth and picking up the kids because I traveled a lot during that time. And then I would clarify as well, like, is there any type of scenario where this would work? Would jobs need to change? What would need to happen in order for that to take place? And wouldn't you know it? We have child number 3. And that was 4 years ago, and we definitely have a lot more feet running around in the kitchen. But I just want to share with you, when your customers are sharing their objections with you, validate them. It's too expensive. I don't want you to be wasting your money. I want to be able to think about it. I don't want you to be making a rash decision. Just validate it. That's the very first step. Whatever they just told you, validate it. All right? Then we move on to the next step. Clarify. Clarify their objection. Because usually objections are coming from 2 places. The first objection is coming from they're confused. And I'm not saying they're confused because they're inept. I'm saying they're confused because we probably didn't do a great job in helping them to know what the next steps look like and being able to move forward with us. So then they say no because they're confused. It's foggy. They don't want to move forward. Or 2, they're saying no because they don't see the value in it. And by not seeing the value in it, I mean, even if you dropped your price down to free, they would still say no because they don't see how it's going to actually help them. Those are usually the things that are causing the objections. So when we're asking questions that clarify, we want to figure out those pieces. Now, some people will start asking questions because they want to trick them. They want to like twist things around so then they can be like, aha, and now you feel stupid for not buying. That is not what I'm talking about. You are not asking questions to figure out how to trick them to buy. You are truly asking questions to understand the problem that they're facing to see if you can actually help them. Because that is the best type of sales conversation that you can ever have. The best sales conversation is not, oh, yay, they bought from me. I convinced them to do that. No, the best sales conversation is, I've listened, I had really good questions, and we were able to uncover what their true problems, frustrations, motivations were, and we were able to see if I was able to help them. If I could, awesome. This is the investment. Let's move forward. If I can't, okay, then I wanted to be able to give them to someone else so that they could help solve their problem. The whole point of the call is not to buy from me. The whole point of the call is to see how can I get you closer to solving your problem than when you first got on the call with me. That's what I mean by clarifying. So you validate and you clarify, and you validate and you clarify, because it starts to come into play. So someone may say, hey, this is too expensive. And we say, you know what? I don't want you, or let me say, maybe they'll say, I need to think about it, because that is truly an objection. I need to think about it is an objection. And so then we say, hey, you know what? I don't want you to have to make a rash decision, but if you don't mind sharing with me, what factors are you wanting to think about more? You validated and you clarified. And as you continue to do that, then things start to come into play. Okay, well, it's not actually that they need to think about it, but they actually have to get approval from somebody else. And actually, they don't have to get approval from somebody else, but they're actually required to have to give 3 different proposals before they make a decision. Those are things you want to know. That's why objections are so good. You need to know those things in order to be able to move the sale forward in an intentional way. Because if they do decide to move forward with you, you need to know these things. And if they don't, you want to be able to know those. So you use the validating and the clarifying to truly understand where their concerns are at. After you've done that and you feel like, okay, we're ready to go, then that's when we move on to the next step. And that's the advance. Now, this is where people are usually like, aha, I knew it, Brooke. I knew it. I knew you were going to manipulate, or I knew you were going to pounce on them. You're just nice about it. I'm going to say no. I do not mean advance as in just tricking them or getting them to sign right now. I mean advance in regards that there are 4 options that we're going to be able to choose from. First one, hey, we've understood. We validated, we clarified. You see the value in it. You're excited to move forward. Awesome. We're going to keep going with what we discussed in the very beginning. Second option, you know what? We're realizing you have more problems and you want more support in regards to that. That would be an upsell. That's our second option. Third option, we kind of missed it. We thought that the first or second option were good, but they're actually not. That's not what you need. But option number 3 in regards to the downsell really feels like it could help solve your problems. That's where number 3 comes in. And then 4, which is really important, I can't actually help you. But I know someone who can, and referring them and helping them to get their problems solved. Those are the 4 options. That is what I mean by advance. After we clarify, validate and clarify, then we're able to figure out what is that actual next step going to be? 1, 2, 3, or 4. So let me give you an example of that with one of my clients. I was talking to them, and we were talking about my day rate in doing sales training for them. And they flat out said, I think that's too expensive. All right, there's the objection. I had 2 choices at this point. One, I could have been like, oh, you know what? This is a really great opportunity because it's a university and I really want to be able to help their admissions team and make an impact. And so I'm just going to slash my prices a little bit and see if we can get kind of hit a medium and then move forward. That could have been one of the options. Instead, I did take my advice and I validated and clarified and validated and clarified. It didn't change the fact that he thought that it was too expensive, but the reason he thought it was too expensive was because he wanted more support. He didn't think that spending that amount of money would change his admissions team for a day. And he was absolutely right. So instead, we worked on a contract where I would go in every week. So it was an 18-month contract that I got to work with them every week to help them to continue to grow in their sales and work with their admissions team. He was happy and I was happy. Everybody won. He grew his admissions by 30% that year, and I didn't die when the objection came. It was a win-win for everyone. So there you have it. You can be able to handle objections without dying a little bit inside. And more than that, you can handle objections where you're able to value your customer and make more sales. You just want to remember, I need to validate, I need to clarify, and then I can advance.